month after the results were announced by the IEC, and since then we have formed a national government. The leadership of Parliament have been elected. We have inaugurated the President. The President has announced the Cabinet. We've also formed government in 8 out of the 9 provinces. So this is really the last leg. Somebody just today sent us a WhatsApp indicating, and I'm not going to mention which country it is, where eventually after 238 days they managed to form a government because they had the same situation as us. We are less than 35 days, so I think we're doing well in terms of making sure that we do have government in all of our provinces so that we can move the country forward. We are joined today by the Secretary General of the ANC, Comrade Fikile Mbalula, who also led our negotiations team on behalf of the officials, as well as our Gauteng Provincial Chairperson and Premier, Comrade Panyaza Lesufi, and then also the Gauteng ANC Provincial Spokesperson, Comrade Lesego Makubelo, who has also part of the panel today. Members of the media will be given an opportunity to ask questions once the statement is delivered. And over to you, Comrade Secretary General. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen of the media. Comrade Phoebe, member of the National Executive Committee, and as well as a member of the negotiating task team, Comrade Panyaza Lesufi, the chairperson of the ANC in Gauteng and the Premier of the province of Gauteng, and the spokesperson of the ANC, Comrade Lesego Makubelo. We want to start first by congratulating our President for being inaugurated successfully, as well as new members of cabinet, ministers and deputy ministers who were sworn in just a couple of hours ago. The African National Congress has been leading the process of negotiating the formation of government nationally and 3 other provinces following the indeterminate outcomes of the 29 May 2024 national and provincial elections. This process has culminated in the formation of a historic government of national unity, executive, negotiated by 11 other parties, all of whom signed the statement of intent. The approach of the ANC has been to separate the negotiations of the national formation of national government from the negotiations of the various provincial governments. This was to allow provinces to negotiate with their counterparts in the context of the particular dynamics of their respective provinces. It was agreed upon by all parties that the discussions will not be lumped together to the extent that the agreement nationally will not automatically cascade to an agreement in the provinces. The negotiations in the various provinces began in earnest around the same time as the negotiations began nationally. An agreement was reached in the Northern Cape and in KwaZulu-Natal provinces. Both provinces have elected their provincial legislature presiding officers and their premiers and have announced their provincial cabinets. The formation of the Gauteng government of provincial unity has not been without its challenges. The process followed in Gauteng was determined by the provincial leadership of the ANC in consultation with the national leadership and guided by the national leadership of the ANC in terms of the strategic framework the National Executive Committee of the African National Congress have adopted. So Gauteng, as much as it was given a leeway to do what it wants, but it did not become a federation. It was guided and is still guided by the strategic framework that was adopted by the National Executive Committee. The process followed in Gauteng was determined, like we said, by the provincial leadership in consultation by national, in implementing and guided by the national strategic framework of the ANC. Since the ANC is the largest party in that provincial legislature, we did not lead the processes of establishment of government in the province of KwaZulu-Natal as we expected the political party that have emerged to actually galvanize and engage with all political parties. So the second largest political party in KZN is the IFP, and they invited us and we duly agreed with them to form a government in KwaZulu-Natal. The ANC invited political parties with representation in the Gauteng Provincial Legislature to negotiate and establish a government of provincial unity. The negotiations in Gauteng have been protracted and have not produced an outcome as yet due to a number of factors. It is important to note that some progress has already been made. The election of the Speaker, the Deputy Speaker of the Gauteng Provincial Legislature and the Premier of Gauteng on the 14th of June are an outcome of the negotiated agreement between these provincial layers of leadership. What is now in dispute are the modalities of constituting the provincial government and the provincial cabinet. As part of this intervention process, it was agreed that the Secretary General of the ANC will lead an effort to reach out to the Democratic Alliance, national leadership to discuss an approach to resolving the impasse which arose between the provincial leaderships of both the ANC and DA, could not reach an agreement on how to constitute government and the provincial legislature on their own. The ANC confirms that we had an extensive engagement yesterday with the Democratic Alliance, which was conducted in a frank and open spirit, aimed at giving effect to the democratic mandate of the people following the 2024 national and provincial elections. We have acknowledged the constructive manner in which our respective structures in Gauteng have engaged, and in which this engagement contributed to the election by the Gauteng legislature of a Premier, Speaker, and Deputy Speaker. Regrettably, and notwithstanding an initial agreement regarding the formation of the Provincial Executive Council, this process has not proceeded with the same alacrity. In terms of this agreement, a member of the DA will be elected as Deputy Speaker, and the Premier will appoint 3 DA members as MECs. And additionally, 6 DA members will be supported as chairpersons of committees in the legislature. In our discussion yesterday, the proposal from the ANC was to honor this original agreement. This proposal was rejected by the DA with their insistence on proportionality of 5-4-1. I don't know, you know football formation. So this is an important formation. 5-4-1. Sundowns. So the ANC reiterates its position that such a proposition is both a misrepresentation of the statement of intent and also undermines an agreement to principle in the national negotiations that the provinces be allowed to proceed with their own negotiations, which process had initially yielded a result in the province. Now, the statement of intent, paragraph 16 and 17 and 21, referred to by Madam Zille, have been a public document, and it was made public right from the onset. So we have not been negotiating in secret. So we can refer to that document like a Bible, all of us, because we have been exposed to the contents of that document in terms of what we have agreed as an intent to form national government working together. The ANC reiterates its position that such a proposition of 541 is both a misrepresentation of the statement of intent and also undermines an agreed principle in the national negotiations that the provinces be allowed to proceed with their own negotiations, which process had initially yielded a result in the province. The changes proposed by the DA are not in good faith, as they seek to change the agreements that were reached at the provincial level. Furthermore, notwithstanding the fact that at the point of deadlock, the ANC delegation indicated it had to consult with its principals. Now, yesterday in our discussion, we allowed our provinces, led by Panyaza, our chairperson, and supported at national level in the negotiating team by Pakstau, Enoch Godongwana, and David Makura to engage with the DA. The DA was led by Helen Zille, who said she's part of the Gauteng caucus. So I don't know the structures of DA out there, and we are not here to question the prerogatives of other organizations. How the DA operates, how it works, we must respect their own operations. So she was part of the delegation, which engaged with our comrades on the other side, together with Solim Simang, Natasha, as well as Fred Nell from the DA leadership in Gauteng. And then when they deadlocked, because they were discussing this deadlock in relation to the modalities of the formation of cabinet in the province, then they deferred to national leadership. In our case, that national leadership and political principal is myself and the negotiating team, the DSG and other officials. And then last night at 7 o'clock, we reported to the national officials, which are led by the president of the ANC, Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa. So that is political principles. I don't know on the side of the DA what political principle will be. It will mean Zille, who was part also of the discussion. So with due respect, we respect that, because she was part of the discussions, which also represented the party at national and as well as the province, working with this team in the province. So that discussion did not yield any result in terms of it further went to a deadlock. Furthermore, notwithstanding the fact that at the point of deadlock, the ANC then indicated at that point that it was to engage with the highest structures and the political principles on what then becomes the way forward. The DA nonetheless proceeded to issue a public statement indicating that the negotiations are not closed and that they are still open to engagement, but nonetheless, they also tabulated their own point of disagreement in terms of the formation of the provincial cabinet. This indeed was regrettable that we could not reach an agreement yesterday and proceed with the formation of cabinet, which Panyaza have now postponed twice, and so on. We will come back to that as well when you engage with him as the ANC provincial leader in Gauteng. We are unable to accede to the DA's latest proposals, as we have indicated throughout the negotiations. The DA is not the only party we are negotiating with on the setting up of the Gauteng government of provincial unity. To demonstrate our commitment to a speedy resolution of the impasse, which we agree with Madam Zille, that this indeed can be characterized as an impasse, and our good faith in this discussion. We wrote a letter to the DA this morning to ask that we return to the negotiation table and not declare a deadlock. The ANC reiterates our firmly held conviction that the task of setting up government in the economic heartland of our country is both urgent and overdue. It will be irresponsible to continue with this impasse because, let me explain to you, we have an impasse with the DA, but we agree with the rest and the majority of the parties. So GNU is not a grand coalition or a coalition between the DA and the ANC. It involves others. We encapsulate the spirit in our negotiations of the statement of intent of inclusiveness in terms of engagement. And that is what is important for us. You will have seen also in terms of national government, that is what we have done. We have included all the parties who have signed the statement of intent, and others have embraced the principle of confidence and supply, which means we've got an agreement with you to embrace the statement of intent, but we don't want to participate in the executive, and therefore we want to only participate in the legislature. So in that regard, in the committees and all of that, we will talk about who chairs what committee and all of that. So that is supply and confidence. So in terms of the DA and us, we agreed, and the rest of the other parties, with the proposal of the GNU, multi-party arrangement of engaging with everybody to form government. The ANC reiterates firmly our held conviction that the task of setting up government in Gauteng is both overdue, and it will be irresponsible to continue with this impasse, meaning we don't have the luxury of an impasse. The Premier soon will be faced with a number of challenges without cabinet ministers and everything to respond. Already you were tormenting him about Nasi Span and the people who say that Panyaza duped them. So the point is that the ministers are not appointed, and you know what happens when the house that is house to let. Everybody comes in and do as they wish. So we can't allow that impasse, especially with Gauteng, to continue. We commend the Northern Cape and KwaZulu-Natal that have moved with speed and to form government. The Premier of Gauteng, Comrade Panyaza Lesufi, intends to conclude all negotiations and consultations and to announce the appointment of the members of the Executive Council today, Wednesday, 3rd July 2024. The DA were advised that if they are not to be part of the GPU, the deadline was 14 hours today, Wednesday, 3rd July 2024. There has been further engagement since then with Madam Zille in terms of her position as the chairperson and the person leading the negotiations of the Democratic Alliance. It is our heartfelt wish that all parties, including the Democratic Alliance, will form part of a government of provincial unity to serve the people of Gauteng and South Africa. The ANC will continue to exercise its leadership role by engaging with every party, including those who are not part of the GPU, in the interests of transformation, redress, national unity, peace, and stability. The formation of the Gauteng Provincial Executive Council that will serve and lead the 7th Democratic Provincial Administration will be an important step forward and a testament to the resilience of our democracy. We assure South Africans that the soon-to-be appointed Gauteng Government of Provincial Unity will be expected to immediately get down to work on the pressing issues facing the Gauteng province and our people at large. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to the Secretary General. I think the statement was fairly straightforward. I'm not sure, Comrade Padniaza, do you want to add anything, or you will wait for taking questions? Okay, we will start with one round of questions. May you please introduce yourself and from which media house you are, and then pose your question. I'm going to start on the right. You should remember your number 1, the lady with the white. Number 2 next to her, number 3 at the back, number 4, number 5 with a blue, number 6 in front, the gentleman with a black hat. Okay, so we've got the first 6. Number 1, introduce yourself and then your question. What we will do is have all of the questions and then they will respond and then we'll have the next round of questions. Over to you.
Thank you, Ms. Gauteng from the Sunday Times. Nobody, you talk about Madam Zilla engaging you after the 2 p.m. deadline. What has been the engagement around, and is there hope that by the time the Premier announces his cabinet, or his executive rather, that you will have reached a deal? Has it been positive is what I'm trying to ask. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Number 2.
Thank you very much for the invitation. My name is Mwande. I work for the Sunday World. SG, as a starting point, there's been a lot of talk about your role in this particular aspect of the GPU, with a whole lot of allegations about how you frustrated the process. How true are those allegations? And also further to that, there are allegations that your interference, it's not me, it's the allegations that are out there, that it has something to do with the upcoming, the next ANC conference, and that you see this particular province as a challenge to that particular campaign. That's number 1. And then...
Just be clear, when you say interference, where? Province?
Yes.
Frustrated what? Province?
Yes.
Which province? ANC?
Yes, GP.
Okay, just go deeper.
Okay. No. As I'm saying, okay, first of all, at the high level, they say you interfered. 1, you interfere by pushing them to the DA, that's the allegation. The second allegation is that you interfere in that you have vested political interest futuristically in terms of ANC 2027 election conference. That's the interference part. 2, Provincial Chairperson, there's also allegation about the province itself in terms of how this whole thing has unfolded. In that it's not a principled fight. There are those that say that it's about sharing the spoils, and that with the limited chairs, you will be unable to accommodate the SACP, SANCO, and the Women's League, who are said to be insistent on getting at least a seat each. So if you have 5, you will probably have from the PEC, direct of the ANC, 2, which leaves out some powerful forces outside of that cabinet. How true is that, Provincial Chairperson? Let me rest it there for now. I'll come back next round. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Number 3.
Good afternoon. Tunes is my name, from Welela News. This question I want to pose to the Premier. Premier, on the 14th of June, during the process of being elected, before you were elected, there were hugs and kisses between yourselves and the DA. Then before the process, the ANC asked for the caucus. Coming back, then we were holding hands with DA. Everything went smooth. So from there, what went wrong? Thank you very much.
After the hugs and kisses. Okay.
Heidi Jokas from ENCA. I just want to find out, I just need clarity on the issue of this 2 p.m. deadline that has been given to the Democratic Alliance. At what point is cut off for the ANC, and at what time are you going to be announcing the provincial executive? And then just secondly, maybe if you could just explain to us how we've reached this point, because on 2 occasions, Gauteng Premier was supposed to announce. It was cancelled or postponed twice. Why did that happen? Was that including the DA or excluding the DA? Because the second postponement was because the DA claimed that they were boycotting and weren't involved in all of this. And are you going to be working with the EFF or MK should the DA not form part of this government of provincial unity?
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. My name is Nkosi Kunamalinga from Power FM. At the present moment, I've just got one question. Could you kindly take the citizens of Gauteng into confidence that all that the ANC is doing in this particular process is in their interest? I mean, we're heading for 3 weeks now, and there's no executive, there's no MEC to hold accountable. A patient died at a hospital in Pretoria, and there was no health MEC to hold accountable. So, what's the message? There is anxiety amongst the residents of Gauteng, certainly.
Sorry, where are you from?
Power FM, Mr. Mbalula.
Power FM.
Particularly even citing issues around the Nasispani program, for example. Thank you very much.
Okay. Was that number 5, number 6? Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, all protocol observed. My name is Shannon Merricks from Kasi Broadcasting Africa. I leave the Premier for later when he announced the 541 and Nasispan. But my question is to the ANC SG. The SG in Gauteng made it clear the DA came with a document, we call it love letter agreement, to sign. They said, no, we want to read. So there's assumption that the ANC SG National didn't read the prenup, whether you call it whatever the DA calls it, that the ANC SG didn't read it, and at least you explained that. But my question to you is, whether you read the document or not, I want to ask you about the Freedom Charter. Nationally, the ANC has given the DA positions that in terms of the Freedom Charter, it says the people shall govern the land, education, and so on. When we look at the portfolios that the ANC gave to DA nationally, like Home Affairs, it puts our security list, food to John Steenhuisen, communication in the hands of the opposition or the enemy, whatever you name it. So the portfolios the ANC gave national to DA, in terms of the Freedom Charter document, can you make us understand what was the logic in terms of the Freedom Charter document, not the clause what of the DA document and so on? Thank you.
Okay, I think those are the first round of questions. Who do we start with? With Comrade Panyaza, Comrade SG. The Freedom Charter question is very interesting.
Good afternoon, everyone. I want to take this opportunity to acknowledge and appreciate our SG, Comrade Mbalula, Comrade Phoebe, as well as Comrade Lesego. I will deal with the easier ones and leave the difficult ones to our SG, so that he can clarify some of the areas and the issues that you've raised. But I want to start in this fashion. We received the mandate to discuss and negotiate with all political parties after the National Executive Committee of the ANC that was held in Cape Town indicated that we can go and discuss with any political party. And what we did as a province was to wait for the national leadership to engage a certain political party, and after every affirmation that that political party have signed to be part of the government of provincial or national unity, we then went to engage that party at the provincial level. This is very important so that you understand how these discussions evolved. So we met with all political parties that signed at national level, which simply means we met with PA, we met with the DA, we met with the IFP, we met with the Freedom Front, we met with all those political parties that are our national leadership. Even the parties that didn't sign, but the national leadership met with them, we followed after the national leadership have met with them. That is your EFF, your MK, ACDP, Action SA. We also followed that. I'm emphasizing this point to drive something home, that at all levels we're at sync with our national leadership. And that's very, very important. Because there is a tendency to label us as rebels. There is a tendency to label us as people that are doing things outside the organizational framework. So all the negotiations, including the cancellation of the announcement of the executive twice, we did that with the cooperation, guidance, and support of the national leadership. So at no particular stage, either did we proceed or not proceed outside the guidance and the leadership of the national or our national leadership. Even the talks that deadlocked yesterday were led by our national leadership, as contained in the statement. The SG led the national leadership. They invited us to be part of the delegation, and we're part of the delegation. And when the deadlock was reached, usually we didn't reach the deadlock, as the statement of the SG indicate. When we arrived there, it said we're going to brief the national leadership. Unfortunately, the other party went to make an announcement that there is a deadlock. So I'll leave the subsequent event to our SG. Mawanda, you raised the issue of the difficulties of appointing members of the Executive Council. I want to dismiss that. We don't have any challenge. We work as a collective. We've done something out of the ordinary. When the results were announced, we convened a special Provincial Executive Committee and invited our alliance partners and our leagues to explain the new order. We've won elections, yes, but we've not reached the 50%. And therefore, we need to engage not only with other political parties, but we can't continue to have the full executive as we used to. So that's never happened. I also took an extra measure of meeting each and every MEC that served in the sixth administration. There was no need for me to do that. But I felt the human element is very important. Because in the absence of having the human element, it's used to divide the organization. That you are not coming back because you are either hated, you are not coming back because you are either not a member of a certain faction and other things. So I met all the MECs, even before we announced today. I felt I've got that obligation as a leader to just brief all the MECs. Thanks, your term has come to an end. The numbers will decrease. Best wishes is the situation and the outcome of the elections that made ourselves to be where we are. So that it's not used for factional interest, or it's not used to advance certain agendas that you are alluding to. So that was that. We had the honor as well of meeting all our alliance partners, all our leagues, to also brief the Youth League, the Women's League, and brief our alliance partners of the state of affairs. So any insinuation, and I've seen it, I've heard it, that we are either controlled by a certain faction or a certain faction want to position itself to occupy strategic position within either the executive or within the PC. I want to dispel that. It's non-existent. The figmentation of those that think they can divide us. We remain united. We are a solid force that needs to work within the ambit of the African National Congress, and will do so. And the good thing is that we are free to express our views within the proper structures of the African National Congress. So I really feel that I need to clarify that. So we are not taking the posture that we are taking, and I'll come when I answer that question. We are not taking the posture that we are taking with our negotiating teams or those that were negotiating purely for a selfish interest or factional interest. But the opposite is true. Every time that we negotiate with certain political parties, the emphasis is that they want to get rid of the ANC. And our posture was to defend the African National Congress. So we don't want to enter that particular space where insults are exchanged. We want to establish a government of provincial unity that will serve the citizens of Gauteng. And I can assure you, with what our national leadership is going to finalize, we are going to announce a cabinet that represents the citizens of Gauteng. And that must execute its responsibilities in that particular fashion. And that's very, very important. Mthunzi alleges that if you don't see an eye to an eye with any other political party, you must not greet them, you must not shake their hands, you must not have some talks. Unfortunately, that is in my character. That's how I was brought up. It's the selection of the people that have greeted, exchanged whatever sporting results that we're exchanging. You select one party, whereas I've done that with everyone. Obviously, the intentions behind it, because I don't know those intentions, I'm not going to satisfy them by responding to them. So I've greeted everyone. I always do that as a leader of government. What time are we communicating the executive, Heidi? We're communicating the executive this evening. Definitely. And this time is not going to be postponed. It's definite. This evening, we'll have the Executive Council of Gauteng. Are you going to work with MK and EFF? We are working with everyone. And we have worked with everyone, as guided by the statement that the SGF indicated. What we are going to do, and we've done it, all the political parties that are part of the Gauteng legislature, all of them have agreed to work with us, including the DA. All of them. There's no single political party that said does not want to work with us. There's only one political party that said, which is POSA, will relate with you based on what is on the agenda of the legislature. But Action SA, we met with them. Something. We said, no, it's fine. There's nothing wrong. They've requested that they be accommodated at a certain committee. We feel that we can. All political parties that we met with, they indicated where they will work with us. All of them. I think there are 8 political parties in that legislature. 11. All of them have said, we'll work with the African National Congress. We don't want to, others said, we don't want to be in the executive. We don't even want to be at the committees. We want to hold you accountable, but we'll work with the ANC. But where we differ with the ANC, we'll come and register our differences with the ANC. So we will accommodate and work with all political parties that are part of that particular legislature. But primarily, and I want to underline that, primarily, we are working with the formation that have signed the statement of intent to be part of government of national unity. That is the guiding tool. I think we need to emphasize that particular point, because that's where our national leadership is leading us and is working with us on those matters. I will leave what Power FM says, that there's no one to hold accountable. What we are doing is in the interest of South Africans. Or the interest of people of Gauteng. I really believe that what the people of Gauteng have said is that we don't want an outright winner that is beyond 50%, but majority of people of Gauteng have voted for the African National Congress. It's something that must not be dismissed easily. We might have not reached 50%, but the party that received the highest vote in our province is the African National Congress. But the voters said both parties that have reached the highest must work together, and we took the tune from our national leadership on how to constitute the provincial government in terms of a government of provincial unity. There's one thing that I really want to clear, because it's very, very important out of the deliberations that happened yesterday. This is the document that the DA gave us on the day I was elected the Premier. This document, the DA said, we are going to vote for the ANC on condition you agree to this document. And I want to read this document, because it is this document that led to where we are today. And the document says, the composition of the Gauteng Executive Council, the Premier will come from the ANC, and the allocation of MECs is as follows. 7 MECs will be allocated to the ANC and other parties, and 3 MECs will be allocated to the DA. The composition of the legislature, the speaker will come from the ANC, the deputy speaker will come from the DA, the chair of chairs will come from the DA, the deputy chair of chairs will come from the ANC. That the principle of allocation of chairperson is based on an oversight model, where when a party occupies an MEC position, the same party shall not occupy the chair of the portfolio. This is the document the DA gave us, saying they are requesting for 3 portfolio positions. And that's what our SG say. We've offered that. The snag is that we said we've started on this document. Let's continue, because this is the document that led to the election of the Premier, Speaker, and Deputy Speaker. Let's go and elect the remaining votes. Then the DA came a day later, said they're withdrawing this document. They're withdrawing this document, and they want us to start afresh. So when they withdrew the document, we were already at an advanced stage of consulting with other political parties. And when they came back later, maybe I've heard the story that we gave them 1, we gave them 2, when they came back later, we indicated that your withdrawal meant that we need to engage other political parties. We engaged all other political parties. We really believe we can reconfigure this to be the way it is. And that's where the dispute came. Heidi, to respond to your question, I'm not sure it's you, that we postponed it twice to give that process a chance. Because the first time we thought that everything is agreed, it's fine, there's no problem. The only problem that we needed to attend was the allocation of portfolios. But when they wanted to move to what our SG says is 541, it meant that we needed to postpone the announcement to accommodate them. We then came yesterday to ensure that we accommodate them. The SG says that they even gave the deadline of 2 o'clock, and the SG will respond to that aspect. So we are ready to announce a government of Gauteng this evening. And that government of Gauteng will be an inclusive government. That would include everyone that is willing to work with us, and it will include everyone that is willing to take this province forward. Thank you so much, Comrade.
Thank you very much, Comrade Chairperson of Gauteng, Comrade Panyaza. Let me start first with Lizeka. In the nature of negotiations, the process of talking and engagement doesn't stop. After yesterday and after our engagement with the officials last night, I wrote to Madam Zille this morning Helen Zille, and then I gave her what is our position. And then I think she's flying, I don't know to where. Probably when I finish here, she will respond in writing to what I'd written to her. And I made it very clear in terms of the correspondence that what is our position, and that Gauteng Provincial Chairperson and the Premier is ready to move ahead with the establishment of government. Now, you have heard yesterday in the press conference that the DA said that what is happening in Gauteng is not interlinked to KZN or national. And Fred Nell was articulating that position. So you were there in cameras and recording. So, and they said also through Helen Zille yesterday that they are prepared to go back to the benches if ever they are not part and parcel or what they want is not approved. Now, from where we started in terms of what Panyaza as the chair have given us is that we started at a high note and then the real interference happened and we don't know what precipitated that. And then changes started to come in after the declaration, after the statement of intent, which I will speak to also speak to the question of the Freedom Charter at the end of the day. So in our statement, and what I've said here today is that we still want the DA and all other parties that have agreed with the statement of intent here in Gauteng has agreed to continue to participate and to be part of government. We have said to South Africans that we're negotiating in good faith. When Zille yesterday raised the issue that our leadership here in Gauteng left them with an understanding that they are going to come back to them to finalize their discussions, so there was no deadlock. I then said to her, let's go back to the negotiating team. I will lead the ANC negotiating team. You come with Gauteng. I will come with Gauteng. Comrades, my leadership here in Gauteng, we meet together. We met the whole afternoon yesterday. And then we also left there with them. So I've got confidence in Panyaza. He can negotiate with anybody. I don't have to be there to police him. He understands the strategic framework and everything of what was agreed. He's a member of the NEC. So he understands what we have to do. And the members of our negotiating team were actually there. So they still reached a deadlock. So the engagement is there, but you can't have an open-ended process. And so that is why in our letter we said at 2 o'clock today, we must hear from them, but equally, not arrogantly, respectively so, we will move forward without the DA in terms of Gauteng to establish government. And that's what is going to happen going forward. And the DA told us yesterday, even in the negotiations, that they are prepared to go back to the benches. If this is a deal breaker for them, then they will go. But if not, we'll move together going forward. There have been compromises back and forth. DA believes that proportionality, according to Zille, to them it means 5-5, which each party must share 1-1 for the opposition. That reflects power sharing, according to them. Now, we don't have to engage what power sharing is in GNU. The spirit of the intent means inclusiveness. It means you include even a party with 1 vote, and that's what is important. So they wanted to know which parties you want to include. Remember, the spirit of intent says the party that has got the majority will invite others to form government. And that's what it says. So the question of who you have spoken to and who have signed with you, it's not a secret. It's a matter that we can explain to the DA. It has been out there. We have explained with the GNU discussions in our statements openly that 10, now 11 parties have signed with us. And Gauteng have been trying to follow that framework and all of that. So what makes fanatics to think that Gauteng is anti-DA in Gauteng is because there are people inherently, even in the ANC, who don't like the DA. You understand? Who don't like the DA, because the DA and the ANC is like milk and oil. We are well apart. But the result of the election, they've produced the result in which we've got to work together to form a government. We've had many options before we arrived at this option. We've had an option which was easy. A grand coalition, one party or parties coming together to work together. We had that option. We had an option of a minority government with elements of supply and confidence agreements. We had that option. Initially in our discussion, it looked like we'll gravitate towards that. But it came to a point where we don't care whether the animal is black or white, but we are in this thing that brings everybody together. And we coined it from our National Executive Committee as a government of national unity with characteristics of supply and confidence. And we have seen the expression of that now, because when we're talking, it was theory. What it means is that within the 10 parties, others will not be in the executive, but they would prefer to work within the legislatures, but not in the executive. Not everybody wants to be in government. And the DA came back with a firmer position, and they said that we want to come in. We want to be part and parcel of government. We said fine and good, but it's not only you, it's others. So we worked on a statement of intent. We signed with the DA, and then the second party to sign was PA, the other one to follow was IFP, and others followed. And that's what has happened in terms of the statement of intent. So Gauteng, we gave them a go-ahead to talk, and that's why Panyaza was elected as Premier and to move with the DA, because they said to us there is an agreement. We said, good shot, go ahead. The same as KZN, the same as Northern Cape. So Gauteng has never moved outside the realm of democratic centralism in terms of ANC politics. From the onset, the National Executive Committee and the officials said that we must all move together. And that's what is important. And then we said to them, start the talks about talks. Talk to everybody. Engage them. Before we even arrived at the position that we arrived at of the GNU. And that's what has actually happened. So, engaging with Helen and the DA has not been a difficulty. And it is not a difficulty even now, Lizeka. Talks go on, you won't imagine how it happens up until late and wee hours of the morning. And exchanging of drafts and all of that and so on. So we're open to engagement, even before we arrived at the decision that Gauteng have said that today they are ready to move ahead. So our statement is very clear. After consultation, Panyaza will then move ahead as his prerogative based on his full understanding of parties that are prepared to participate in the provincial government of national unity, move ahead to establish government. And other parties may respectfully say, we're not coming. Like the DA have said yesterday, this is not reflective of their own conception of power sharing. And that in this particular instance, they've got an option of stepping out. Let me tell you, among the options the ANC had when we approached this discussion was first, can we go for a rerun of the elections? Can we, among others, go for a rerun of the elections? Can we go to the backbenches? Now, you know that the ANC, if it were to take the option of going to the backbenches, it will be the biggest, largest opposition party in the world in history of politics. With 6 million people, you go back to the backbenches. No, it has never happened. The party with the largest majority, without a mandate to form government outright, is the one that leads and works with everybody. It's not by choice. Even if political parties were to come together and do what others said we must be removed surgically, they will never be able to achieve that. The reason why they are in negotiations is because the electorate said, relax, we don't agree with that. We want you to work together. That's what President Ramaphosa says plainly. This result have produced a result where it says work together. And so that is what has actually happened. So, Lizeka, we are prepared to engage with Helen and the DA, and if we are to find a solution by the time I finish here, well and good. Well and good. But the message I got from her didn't look like we are heading that direction. But it doesn't mean I'll stop talking to her. What is the time now? It's 4 o'clock. So we've not been negotiating with deadlines. Political parties mature, come back. We start at 20, we come down. So that is it. But it has been a very fruitful process of engagement and of talking, and very matured. And Mawande, it's very difficult to deal with a gossip column because you lead a gossip newspaper. It's called the tabloid. So you are shwash. So you are told things that some are the untruths, and you've got the license to write them because you are Mr. Gossip. So let me say this, with due respect to Sunday World, of course that is your posture, your tabloid. I wouldn't expect others to be like you because it's hardcore stuff, you know, politics and all of that. But let me entertain the gossip a little bit. Pushing the DA, I've seen that. It is gossip because I've seen it in WhatsApp groups. So WhatsApp groups are very toxic. I'm not part of WhatsApp groups. I'm part of WhatsApp groups that only do work for the ANC. Even ANC people who've got WhatsApp groups, I've resigned from those. I've left. Because there's a lot of whining there, and you're talking to a person who has never done door-to-door, but is the biggest critic of our failures today. That's the people on WhatsApp groups. No genuine person belongs to a WhatsApp group. Others are speaking 24/7. Now you realize these are side effects of unemployment. That is what it does to our people. You see, they are sitting there, not doing anything, disengaged. There is a saying in English that idle minds breed evil ideas. So if you are not working and you've got access to Wi-Fi, you can WhatsApp the whole night. So, and then say things that are imaginary and that are not truthful. And I can't contest that at my level as the SG. I can't. Honestly, I'm now being drawn to the to the street level. Now I must answer a gossip that I've interfered with Panyaza. I'm a director of the ANC. I'm the Secretary General. I execute the mandate of the National Executive Committee to the latter. Panyaza can't do as he wish in this country. We run this organization within the prescripts of the Constitution of the ANC. Even the things some say I talk to them. You are overboard. Don't be excited by things. You know, Gwede said I'm excited by cameras. Because I said something about Zuma that I was not supposed to say. And then he said, no, please guys, help him with cameras. So, even a spaza shop is better run. ANC must be run properly. When we're faced with a difficult, look at Zille. He's running DA machinery. There is dissent there. Have you seen DA people running amok? Zille is the boss. I'm not the boss here. I'm accountable. My word is not final. I execute what I'm mandated to execute. And the province fall into lie. So this lie that I intercept, I interfere, doesn't exist. I direct the affairs of the ANC. And that I can tell you for free. Whether they like it or not, because we're a big organization. Others may not like it because they thought things will move quick fix for their own selfish interest. It doesn't work like that. This province of the ANC is led by Panyaza, a man called Panyaza, working with men and women who exercise their brain power and political thinking independently and make suggestions to national leadership. We process that together with them. And then we take that as decisions which must be implemented. So I've had horrific things that are even said by Helen, that the ANC wants 7 because they do a favor for so and so. I mean, if I were to tell the world how the DA thinks, that will not be matured. Because it's an independent party, I must respect them. Because there is no such in the ANC. Our political considerations and strategic considerations are our own, and we don't negotiate them with Helen. Our prerogatives are our own political, we don't negotiate them with Helen. And what does she have to do with ANC dynamics? She must focus on what she wants. And if she can't get it, let it be. She will go her own direction, leading her own party. And we respect the DA as an independent party, and whatever the dynamics that are there is of their own. But what is fundamental to us is people first. That is what has guided the ANC. That is the principle. National interest. We had a choice to go different directions and negotiate for 100 days. You know, I was looking at Congo, at DRC. I was surprised after 5 months there was no government. Just some days ago, the president announced cabinet and government. Here in South Africa, it happened in less than a month. Actually, we've broken the record. So we're just left with Panyaza. So that's why we can't go on for months. I've had people said, we can't replicate wrong things. That let's negotiate for 12 months. Huh? No, we can't. Everything must come to an end. The people have spoken. We have accepted the result, and that is it. Political parties have sat down, have made up their mind. And that is it. So we're looking at that. A futuristic, we don't know what is the future, because the future is not in the distant horizon, because what we can predict about the future, that we're doing things in a futuristic way, I think is far from the truth. I mean, it's just simple, cheap gossip, street gossip, actually. That's what it is. There's no truth into that. Our leadership here in Gauteng is there, and the center holds. And we're directing the affairs here. And it's not true. We know that in the ANC, we do have differences politically. That's why, as a political party that we are, we have embraced what is called dissent. We don't just arrive at a meeting and accept decision and without others saying, but we thought we should have moved in a particular direction. That's what has kept the ANC together. So, if there are people in the ANC which we know harbor deep feelings about engagement in the GNU that involve the DA, we'll thresh it out politically and explain to them the strategic tasks before us why we arrived at that decision. It has never happened that the ANC take a difficult decision and everybody agrees with. We've got COSATU, we've got the Communist Party. Why should COSATU not be worried about working with the DA when the DA was marching for the workers before the elections and promising public servants that all of them will be retrenched? Why should COSATU not be worried that you are now working with these people in a government? How are you going to navigate through that? It is strategic, it is correct. Even when we agreed on transitional mechanisms to this country, that's where we started. In 1990, Mandela woke up in Cape Town and introduced the Groteskir Minute, and then said the armed struggle is suspended next to de Klerk. From today, the armed struggle is suspended. And then it has moved like that. Hey, there was a big debate about it, because some of us were not even assimilated a proper understanding that an armed struggle can be suspended anytime. It's not a matter of strategic intervention. It's a tactic that we use and we can bring it back at any given time. But we thought that we'll die with this armed struggle and we'll get into Pretoria with bazookas. And we did not get to Pretoria with bazookas. They killed Chris Hani. If our leadership were populist, we wouldn't have moved on. They killed Chris Hani. If a leadership of the ANC was weak, they would have said, let this thing stop, let's go back to the bush. You wouldn't be having freedom today. Chris Hani's blood nourished our freedom. And then we said, let's move faster. But we don't suspend mass defiance campaign and all of that and so on. We now want transitional mechanisms, modalities of the transference of power. And that is what we wanted. Transitional Executive Council, Mangope was gone and everybody else, and then the date for the elections. 1994 was ushered in through the toil, the struggle, the blood of our martyrs. But our leadership at all material times was thinking strategically and was thinking about the people. If the ANC did not care about the people and the people's interest, this struggle would have been in vain. It was properly directed up until this far. So the futuristic interest that we want and for everybody should be futuristic interest where the ANC will come back to power. And the futuristic interest for all of us should be about that in the ANC. But for the people of South Africa, it is unity, peace, redress, national unity. And when we said we want to form GNU, I'm sure some of you were saying, this thing that they are talking about is just ANC talk. They love positions. They want to give political parties something that is not tangible. We have given tangible positions to political parties in the GNU. And then Heidi, Mtunzi, your questions were answered by Panyaza and they were not directed to me. The cutoff, when is the cutoff? Heidi, the cutoff, Panyaza have said is today, because they are prepared to move ahead. So after now, he will consult, he will engage with all his political people before he announces, are you still ready to come to the party? If they are not, I suppose he will move ahead with the announcement of the Provincial Government of National Unity in Gauteng. Why the postponement? In the negotiations, things are not cast in stone. You plan your things and then you decide. And the postponement was done in consultation with the province, with ourselves, including yesterday. They were ready to move. We said, no, let's go back to the negotiations. And then let's talk, let's engage, and so on. So it is normal when you want to constitute government and you have not won an election, that you go back and forth and all of that. But there's never been confusion at the leadership level about the strategic framework and where we are heading to. Now, those who are gossiping and talking their own thing, it ends in the beer hall, not here. Here we are driving strategy to the end, and we are briefing our structures. So, we will be briefing our structures, and that has happened countrywide, including here in Gauteng, because our people are relating with news of this nature through WhatsApp groups and media. They don't know up to this far, some of them, how we arrived at the decisions we arrived at. And the ANC does not relate to its members through the media only. We talk to them directly. And we have done that throughout the country. There are a few provinces that are left. It is Gauteng. Today we are briefing Northwest. And we still have got to go down to the regions and talk to them about the decision we've taken. But the center holds. The center is the NEC. The NEC understands its mandate in terms of driving the processes of engagement. Are we going to be working with the MK or the EFF? The EFF and MK have said that they don't want to be part of the GNU. We have repeatedly said that to you. So we don't know where the question arises. They said they don't want to be part of the GNU where other political parties participate because they've got the red line for that. And they've made their positions very clear that they don't recognize it. So that question does not arise to us, because the perspective that says we must go with a black political party movement, a black consciousness of 2024, does not arise in our, not just our vocabulary, it does not arise even in our ideological perspective as the ANC. So we work with everybody. So the black consciousness of political parties, and then we've got to interrogate a whole lot of things about ideology and all of that. And then once you get into that, you'll realize that we're way apart from each other. So we can't be hoodwinked into ideological concepts that have not been thoroughly processed, politically speaking. So we believe that national interest, constitutionalism, rule of law are key to us in terms of the outcome of the election. As the ANC, we believe in that. Not some black consciousness movement that must come in 2024 and all of that. It is very good, black consciousness, don't misunderstand me. It is very good, but it must have content. You see, and if you look at the GNU, we have brought liberation movements into it. And then the PAC lead a land reform program in that GNU. So you may say it is one seat, but it is fundamental in terms of the disposition of the GNU when it comes to who is part of it. If Nyonzo had 10 seats as the PAC, probably will have 3 seats or 20 seats. He's one. You can't take anyone after him because you see. But you are embracing the principle of a national liberation movement. And that's what is important. And then allocating a proper seat to the PAC to drive, which will support the land reform program, Izweletu. That's what is important. And that program equally is the program of the national liberation movement. But the ANC has not only locked itself into that, it has gone beyond that in terms of how we analyze the South African question, which will require a webinar discussion for some time. Power FM, this impasse will be resolved, and then we will move ahead. We may move ahead as a force, or we may move ahead with others behind. And that is what it is. But our interest is to basically work for everybody. Let me now come to the Freedom Charter as the last topic. Helen Zille says that we have not Helen Zille, you media, you say, not even you. It became a joke that we signed a document we have not read. We drafted the document. You see this lady here? She's the best drafter. She's a doctor. She's a research capacity of the ANC. We work as a collective. I had the negotiations. We look at the document, it goes back and forth. It goes to the president, it goes to the officials. We agree on it and the SG signs. So the question that the document was not read is incorrect because we drafted it. You can only not read what you have not drafted. So we drafted the document, we shared with all political parties. They looked at it independently and they signed with us. The first party to sign with us was the DA. And then followed by PA, and then from there, followed by all other parties and the IFP. Now, here is clause 16, what it says. I'm reading it for you. I'll read for you in this document. Go and familiarize yourself. Clause 16 and 17 of the statement of intent. It says the government of national unity shall be constituted in a manner that reflects genuine inclusiveness of political parties that are party to this statement of intent and are represented in the National Assembly, broadly taking into account the number of seats parties have in the National Assembly and the need to advance the national interest. The President then shall, in constituting the executive, take into account the electoral outcomes. Helen Zille bring into this, when we talk about seats, proportionality. And then says that in terms of proportionality, we are then being undermined. But leave that it may be. In the document, we don't not even extrapolate proportionality and analyze it in detail. We talk about the principle of inclusiveness. We don't talk about proportionality that you'll get 5, 6, 7, 8. If you bring that in the negotiations, you can. But we made it very clear that to us, inclusiveness means to talk to everybody. But these are things that we'll share with you if you want to run a show on Netflix about what happened behind the talks. So we'll explain that. But the most important thing, that is clause 16, right? And then 17 says, whilst recognizing the president's prerogative to appoint members of the executive, such appointments shall be done in consultation with leaders of respective parties of the members considered for appointment. Now, President exercises prerogative. He talks to John Hesthazen about Panyaza is going to constitute government in Gauteng. He will talk to leaders of political parties in Gauteng. That, look, and then they will talk about posts. And then that party probably will say, we want one post, this and that and that. And then they look into that, they engage at their level. Because the prerogative is now constitutional. But we said in terms of the statement of intent, the president will do that after consultation and so on. So that is the statement of intent. Is a public document that everybody have actually read. Have we given political parties positions that are anti-freedom charter? Now, all positions should belong to the ANC. But they would have belonged to the ANC if the ANC won outright majority. So which position is not a position of the Freedom Charter? All of them. 32 ministries, is it correct? Belong to the Freedom Charter. So the question when you constitute GNU at the government level, to an extent that you'll say this does not belong to us, it belongs to the Freedom Charter and all of that. Which one is going to be that? Because all of them are important, including Gauteng Mackenzie's position. They're very important. Sports, arts and culture is very important. Social cohesion, nation building. It's a big project. One politician said to me, and one politician once criticized me and said, "Hey, Zuma unyatsitse. Ufile ministry wa uralo ke di dangari le bananyana," and all of that. Now I won't quote that politician. And then another politician said, you know, sports, you're taking it very serious. It's a very important position. In apartheid era, I was Minister of Education and Sports. I ended up becoming something important after that. So don't take it for granted. Because it's an important position, not for your own self-aggrandizement, but it is the position that makes you people happy. You are part of the people who generate happiness index for the country. And you can see it like, it's like Gauteng is going to make us happy. The guy is he's like Razmataz. If you like it, you see. So it's not a position you take for granted. We used to wake up early, fetch people from the airport, make them feel good, make them embrace Makadzi, Tyler. When they arrive at airport, you must be there. Dinners are organized. People are given houses. They are given land in other countries when they've won medals. That's how important that position is. So when you say we have given positions to other political parties that undermines the Freedom Charter, I think every position, my brother, belongs to the Freedom Charter. And the Freedom Charter says the people shall govern. And if you read the principles of the Freedom Charter under the people shall govern, it respects the power of the people through vote, because we're disfranchised. So the vote have spoken. The vote said to the ANC, you've got 40%. You've got 34% in Gauteng. DA, you've got 28%. We don't govern. If we governed, we wouldn't be having this press conference. By the day the president was inaugurated, the following day, cabinet would have been announced. We had to take time to start to talk to people that we even never thought we'll talk to them. Others you don't know, the name of the party probably, who's the leader, and then you've got to find them, where they are, how they are thinking, do they think about the country, talks, you sell the idea. And then others, when we talked to them, they said no. They came, others, with this blackness and a fake liberation movement concept. That's fake, because when they were supposed to understand this politics at a given point in time, they didn't. But South Africans have given us this outcome. And that's where we are as the ANC. And it stands to be seen what this GNU is going to do. Politically speaking, it can be a formidable force, or in the process, others may move away from it. But it won't collapse. One thing for sure, it won't collapse. Others may decide that this thing is not working for us. We have tested for a few years. It's not working for us. We are leaving. You get what I mean? But they will be replaced. So at the end of the day, GNU is constituted with the ANC in majority working with others, not outright. And that's what it is. We've got mechanisms, which is what now, as I conclude, how we are going to deal with matters. Remember, the statement of intent does not replace the Constitution. That's what is important. The statement of intent does not replace how cabinet functions. You know, when people were being sworn in today, others cannot even pronounce conscientiously. It's very difficult. Conscientiously. It's very difficult. I had a difficulty myself when I became the deputy minister for the first time to pronounce that word, conscientiously. But that oath is loaded. Do as you wish, you act like you are not following that oath. That's why Justice Zondo was saying, say it in English, if not in Xhosa, and you sign for it. Because that's not a picnic there. A minister must be minister. That's not a picnic. Deputy minister must be, I will respect my office. That thing is not a child's play. You serve the people of this country. We wanted to reduce government to 25, actually to 21 as ANC. The people of South Africa humbled us. There now we've got 32. There. We don't have a choice because it's the reflection of the will of the people. We bring everybody on board. And then let's work for South Africa. And that's what is important for us. So, in conclusion, Phoebe, which I've spoken a lot, I don't think there will be follow-ups. Yes. I've covered you a lot because Panyaza still has got to go. Yes. You've got one. Yes. Before I sit, what? Yes.
Breiten here from Netwerk 24. Does the arrangement to the other side without the DA, is that a more complex arrangement? And let's say the DA says, no, we're out in Gauteng. Who are the parties that you are going to work with, and what will the proportionality be?
We're still hopeful that DA will be part. We're still hopeful. And
they've said that they're out. They've just confirmed that now.
It's fine. Then we'll cross that. I will not answer it from the podium. But we have made it very clear that we will work with them. But if they are out, we can't delay the impasse. We've got to constitute government. And Panyaza will answer that question tonight.
Good afternoon, SG.
Yeah.
My name is Luna from the Men and Guardian. SG, basically what I wanted to find out is that I think maybe the processes of the ANC when you are suspended lasts you about 6 months. With former President Zuma, how far are you with the disciplinary hearing of his? Because you announced that you suspended him in January, and we're already in July now. It looks like it has elapsed. And also, with the leadership of Northwest and I think Free State, the chairperson is not being part of premiers. Are we not going to experience what we experienced in KZN between Duma and Dube? Thank you very much.
I will be happy to answer that question at the right time. But just to remind you, we have said that Zuma's case is postponed. We wanted to give ourselves time for an election campaign, which we did. The DC have set the date for the hearing, and we wish to respect that process. We will talk about that case at the end, when verdict and all the things have been done. At the present moment, we don't want to be accused of prejudice and all sorts of things, because these processes are litigation prone. So we don't want the SG to be quoted that the decision was long in the back pocket and the question of the DC was just a formality. So please respect that. So we won't answer that at the present. We'll talk about it at the end, yes? Yeah, one last one. This one likes to come last. Yeah. And with very controversial questions.
Yeah, we take the credit. Thank you so much. From UFM. SG, how far are you in getting consensus about? I've heard that you've said you've gone to provinces, you're going to Northwest to brief the structures and so on, but you probably see an angry Tony again yourself on Twitter daily complaining about this GNU. There's Andy Longisa, those are prominent people. Don't you perhaps think that this could have been handled better through NGC, considering how big the decision is, looking also at the longer implications that you could perhaps possibly be punished by your voters to say, why did you go into bed with those people?
I think it is water under the bridge now, because the ANC is leading government, working with other parties. The president is the president of the ANC. And then we are leading government in a GNU. So I don't know what is sellout about it. Sellout will be in policy, in government. if the ANC fails to implement the mandate of the people of South Africa, 6 million and many more, and try to basically shape up as a party, then it will lose more votes. And I don't think that question must be addressed otherwise, either than the ANC itself doing self-introspection. The ANC will meet in the National Executive Committee, probably after the 18th of July. Government will meet next week. Government will then look at the 7th Administration Program of Action. Going into that 7th Administration, Lekgotla, to us, our statement is the manifesto of the people of South Africa. 7 priorities. And without the order of preference, but in the main, the emphasis on jobs, 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 and turning the economy around. So can the GNU turn the economy around and create jobs for our people? That's what is important for us. So I'm not going to talk about Tony Ngeni. Andile knows his place as a member of the NEC. He knows. So if you give me his tweet one more time, we will have to talk another language with him. He knows. Tony is a loose cannon. He's a freelancer. He's not accountable to anyone. So I can't respond to freelancers. It's going to be very difficult. Because what I'm going to say in this platform, he will respond 20 times. And I don't remember him even in this campaign supporting us to get 50%. I remember him supporting MK Party. And MK Party has taken 2.3 million people from the ANC. Today, we wouldn't be even arguing about GNU and DA and everybody if those people who went to MK, which are ANC voters, they went into the voting stations and voting booths with Ramaphosa's t-shirt and voted for MK Party. It's our constituency that voted for MK Party. So we wouldn't be here today talking about GNU and then all of that if 2.3 million people in a low voter turnout voted for the ANC. We will probably be at 58%. Or if we had reduced our majority, we'll probably be at, the turnout is 58%, which is really low voter turnout. But what it means is that if we had these 2 million, even lesser, we will be above 50%. So we wouldn't be talking. The DA, EFF, and all the smaller political parties combined could not bring us below 50. They had to get Jacob Zuma to do that. So what are you talking about? Who are they to lecture us about losing power when they worked? We told them, I was here, press conference after press conference, I said Jacob Zuma has put the NDR in a precarious position. I even used extreme statements. I said he will account if ANC loses power. Will he account? He doesn't account. He says he wants to finish us off. That's what he said. Immediately after the elections, he said, I want to finish them off. So he has not come to Lutulia House and say, I've now campaigned to rescue you. Here is my rescue plan. He didn't present it to me. Because he said he's campaigning to rescue the ANC. Now, we must be the ones running after MK Party and try to think, where is Zuma? Everybody is suspended there. You don't know the person you are talking to today, whether you'll finish 2 days and so on. Up until ukhuluma no baba, yekela. Stop joking around. Okay, last. 5-4-1. I think the scheme is going to change. From the announcement of the DA, it looks like the scheme is going to change. We leave it to Panyaza. Thank you very much. We leave it to Panyaza. Thank you. Phoebe will make announcement. Thank you very much.
Okay, before you, Comrade Panyaza, just to say that unfortunately we will not be able to take any interviews. For those of you that wanted to take interviews with either Comrade Panyaza or the SG, The announcement will be tonight, so they have to prepare for that. And the normal channels can be used, the ANC spokesperson or the ANC manager. But thank you very much for this, and we appreciate your presence. Thank you, Comrade Essien, Comrade Paniaza, Comrade Lesego.